Hello and welcome back to Desert DIY. Today I am taking on a particle board side table that I picked up from that huge yard sale haul. It appears at first glance that it is real wood, but the only real wood on this is the spindles. Almost the entire thing is particle board. And once I realized that, I was like, you know what? Since this is like practically falling apart and could totally be tossed in the trash, I'm going to go all out on this piece and make it into something that you would not even recognize. I'm going to do all the things on this project that I'm too afraid to do on real wood, and make sure you stay tuned through this whole video because just when you think I'm done, I continue to do more and more on this piece. I really had a great time experimenting with so many different mediums and different finishes, and I think that there's probably a few times where I could have stopped and it would have been fine, but I just wanted to try everything that I've been dying to try since this piece was nothing of any significant value. And when I was repairing this piece, it was just really wobbly and it had some wing nuts on it that were broken off, so I couldn't tighten it anymore. And I just went in my garage and grabbed some lock washers and lock nuts and used those on here. Lock washers and lock nuts are known for not ever getting loose, so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have to do this on this piece again, and nobody else either in the future would have to do this again. Particle board is notorious for the holes, like screw holes, getting bored out and stretched out. So you can't tighten your screws anymore once that happens because the holes are just too worn out, and there's really nothing you can do that will last when you are working with particle board. So I wanted to just do the best that I possibly could in getting this thing structurally sound. I took the screws out of this area right here, and then I took off the whole base of the piece and then glued it back together. But first I wanted to make sure that I cleaned the surface and kind of saw what I was working with. And I figured, hey, you know what, while I have that off, why don't I just sand now? That'll make it so much easier to sand now prepping for paint than having to watch out for the legs the whole time. A flat surface is much easier to sand than watching out for legs and spindles and all that. The glue I'm going to use is Gorilla Glue, so it's good that I have a damp surface when I'm putting the Gorilla Glue down because water activates it. I don't know the science behind it, it just does. Then I just screw it back together while the glue is drying. Today's video is going to be a collaboration with Ginger Chick Rehab. You guys have been asking for this collaboration and I'm so excited. She is also making over some particle board furniture. Here's what her projects look like before, and you will not believe what they look like at the end. She really went out of her comfort zone just like I'm doing on this piece, and I am so excited. She's really so talented, and I hope that you guys take some time to go over to her channel if you aren't already subscribed to her, because you might be because she's that great. But go check out her projects. You will not be disappointed. Now I'm just going to continue tightening things up and sanding, prepping the piece for paint. I am going to be using an outrageous paint color for this piece. And I'm not just like exaggerating. This color that I picked for this piece is actually outrageous. I've never used a color this bright. And I would even venture to say that the color is brighter than the yellow bench that I did before. And it's not yellow, so just keep watching, you'll see. I have been really inspired by so many different things lately. It's so funny because I go through these ruts where I have zero inspiration, no motivation. I don't know what I'm going to do next on my next project. And then other times I'll have so much inspiration that I want to fit it all into one piece. And that's kind of what I did with this. And at first I was a little bit worried that what I was doing was just way too much, but as I kept adding the layers, it kind of started coming together. Here I'm just going to do a quick prime on here. My first coat of prime is always super messy, and I just got to get the paint on there, and then the second coat I'll do some better coverage. So that's what I'm doing here, and then I do just a quick second coat with this primer. And any kind of flat white spray paint would do as a primer for this. I needed a white primer though. That was the only stipulation here. I needed the primer to be white because of the outrageous color that I was choosing, which you are going to be seeing very quickly here in the next less than a minute. But here's my second coat of primer, and I just wanted to make sure that the background for my outrageous color was nice and even and white. Here we go, guys. Oh boy. Fluorescent pink. I bet you were not guessing that that was the color I was going to do. So I saw this spray paint at Home Depot and I immediately loved it. I don't know what about it was like so enchanting to me, but when I saw it, it was like calling my name, and I had to do a project in this color. And the reason I chose it in spray paint is because I don't know how else to buy fluorescent paints other than in spray paint. And I kind of want to do like more neon colors in the future because I loved how this one turned out so much. My camera had a hard time picking up the pink because it was so bright. So if it appears orange to you, in real life it was fluorescent pink, just like the can says. It was super duper pink. And it took quite a few layers. So fluorescent paint is actually very, very thin. And my dad has a lot of experience in painting cars and boats and planes and all sorts of stuff. And I had asked him about fluorescent paints, and he said, "Oh, don't use it. It fades really fast." And I was like, well, it's going to be an indoor type of thing, so I don't think I'm going to have issues with fading. But he did say that it is a difficult paint to work with, and now I see why. Once I got that paint all done, I decided I wanted to add a lot of character to this piece. I bought these napkins from, I think I got them from TJ Maxx or Home Goods for $2.99, and when you're doing decoupage with napkins like this, you want to take that white paper off the back of the napkin. It's in a bunch of layers sometimes. Even sometimes the napkins will have like 3 or 4 of those white layers in the back. It just depends which napkins you get and the brand and how they want to make it. But I just trimmed off the little funky area on the edge there that wouldn't have matched up with my pattern that I had going on. And I'm going to use some Mod Podge and put it on the top of this table. I've really been into Mod Podging and decoupaging napkins onto things. I tried it once with a trunk, and I've been wanting to try it ever since then. I'll link that video up above here so you can watch that if you want to. But when I do the Mod Podge, I had seen a video on YouTube. I don't remember who it was by, sorry, but they gave me instructions to kind of work the paint back and forth in different directions until it gets tacky. So I did that with the Mod Podge, and then once it was tacky and had some resistance with the paintbrush, that is when I went ahead and started putting on the napkin. And I love how the color, that neon color, is coming through the napkin to make the pink background much more fluorescent than it was. It helps it match a little better, I think. And it does look orange, I feel like, right here, but I swear to you, in real life, it was a fluorescent pink. Just keep that in mind. You'll kind of see glimpses of the pink in some of the different camera angles that I do coming up pretty soon. But all I did was just match up the pattern the best that I could. While that was drying, I am going to solve the problem of these missing little plugs right here where the screws are. I had already had this all planned out in my head before I even started this project, but I have these old leftover broken pieces of vintage jewelry, I believe, and I have literally been waiting like 5 years to find a project for this. So I jumped at the opportunity to use these to cover that area where those holes are. Instead of using wood filler, I thought I would think outside the box and try things that I've wanted to try forever and was just too afraid to do. So I just put down some E6000 glue first, and then I attached it all with hot glue so that it would instantly stick, but as the E6000 dried, it would hold it like better, stronger, I guess. So I'm just going to show you kind of quickly how I randomly placed these pieces on there in a way that I thought looked interesting and fun. I just love the bright, happy, fun, I guess kind of gaudy look that this gives. I love vintage jewelry, and I love bright, big, chunky vintage jewelry. So for this piece, it was really special for me. And it may not be your style, but please just continue watching because I do something to make this whole piece a little bit more cohesive. Alright, so now that that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of sandpaper and sand off the edges of all the areas that I decoupaged. That is the best way, in my opinion, to get the edges off when you're decoupaging. It's so quick and easy. Now I'm going to sand the whole top down to kind of give it more of an antique look or vintage look. And also it helps to flatten out any of the wrinkles or ridges that were in the napkin when I pressed it down using a sponge. And I personally am not the best decoupager, so to be able to sand down those edges really makes the difference. Now I'm going to go ahead and add gold paint onto this piece, as if I hadn't done enough things on this piece already that made it so gaudy and outrageous. I decided to do a gold wash over the whole thing. So gold paint, like the one that I'm using right now, I believe this one's by Rust-Oleum. It doesn't have like a solid color. It's very opaque, so you can do a gold wash with this paint on any color. So if you're watching this and you don't like the colors I chose, keep in mind that you can do that over any other color. And once I got done with that, I decided that it wasn't enough and I wanted to do like a gold finish on the whole rest of the piece because I loved the gold wash, how it was turning out. So it was extremely windy outside, like it always is, and I used that to my advantage and used spray paint to create a golden speckled finish over the rest. And here is what the top looked like after it had dried, and you can kind of see the gold speckle finish around the edge there. The only part that I really needed to seal on this piece was the top where I had done the decoupage. The rest of the paint is self-sealing. So I just took this triple thick polyurethane and did one coat of it, although later on I'll probably do a couple more coats as this dries and before I end up donating this piece. But this is what I started with, guys. If you haven't forgotten already, because since it is already so different, this is how it ended up being. Look at that amazing, like aged, golden, beautiful, floral, fruity finish and the gold speckled finish down on the bottom. I don't know. I have like I love it, but it's also a lot. So if it's not your favorite, I totally understand. But I just can't get over the way that the top of this thing turned out. And the gold speckles kind of made that vintage jewelry blend in and all go together so cohesively. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you saw today, don't forget to hit subscribe and go check out Ginger Chick Rehab's amazing makeovers that she did on her particle board furniture that she got. I'll see you next time. Bye!